What got me in photography? Actually, it was a love of the aerial view. I really seriously didn't pursue this craft or the discipline of photography until I started hang gliding and started carrying my camera with me around my neck and taking aerial photographs. Well, then the ultralight came along in late '79, which opened up as the perfect vehicle really for taking aerial pictures. I've worked at low-level aerial stuff for at least 10 years before I've worked at a technique I can successfully take shots as low as 50, 60 feet at times. People ask me if it's a dangerous sport. I say absolutely. I have to get in my car and drive from my house to the hangar. That's the most dangerous part. When I'm in my airplane, that's when I feel the safest. It's amazing how trees can reach out to grab you and hydro lines and things of that nature. But I love to fly and photograph. It's a totally integrated process. On occasion, I do some commercial work, so I have to hire a pilot. But for me to tell the pilot, turn right, bank the wing, do whatever, tell him I think of what he has to do, tell him that, and he executes a maneuver, I've lost the shot. Here it's a seamless process. So I have a shot of a horse and buggy, for example, coming down a road just before sunset. So the shadow is elongated 90 degrees to the subject matter, and it's taken straight down, no higher than, say, 60 feet. Very difficult shot to get. I was circling over top at 50 or 60 feet, trying to get the shot straight down. This is a matter where perception, is reality, because you see the shadow before you see the horse and buggy, and it's a really striking image. One of my favorites. My first book was Gift of Wings. I started flying ultralights in late '79. A year after I'd started, I had a hang gliding accident which put me in a wheelchair. And fortunately, I had just enough ultralight time flying experience that I could get back one of these machines. We only had single-seaters at the time, and safely take myself back in the air. It was probably some of the best therapy I could have done, look down, see an empty wheelchair. And I had the idea, could I fly one of these machines across Canada? And I talked to a friend of mine. He said, "Hebert, you're nuts. It's impossible to do this." Ultralights at that time were flying about 25 miles an hour, but the dream never left me. And it took 5 years from the inception of the dream. In 1986, as a part of Expo, the World's Fair, flew the first ultralight across Canada, coast to coast. And a Rotary Club sponsored me for a second flight, which I did over the course of 2 summers, took 14,000 pictures, and parlayed those into a book called Gift of Wings. When I recognized that Gift of Wings had the potential, the first book, to raise money for charity, I thought, I wonder if I can use my camera as a tool to support various charities, and set a personal goal to raise $1 million. Last summer I drove a vintage farm tractor, W4, coast to coast, 6,000 kilometers, and did a book called Keepers of the Land. It celebrates 39 farm families coast to coast, and what amazed me was the diversity of farming, right from cranberry growers to buffalo farming, traditional cash cropping with corn and wheat, to turkey, chicken farmers, dairy farmers. Huge variety in this country. Probably the most unusual book I did was in Haiti. It was the first ever coffee table book that celebrated Haiti and its people. And it sold probably in the area of 15,000 copies, raised at least $250,000 for a hospital, and it was a very satisfying experience. Huge stretch for me culturally to be thrown into the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. I mean, I'd traveled globally before, but it's the first time I was seeing it intimately through a lens. But had a real admiration for these people living in abject environment. At the same time, people of great spirit and tenacity and the courage to carry on. I live in a very unique part of the world insofar as the area here is farmed by old order Mennonites who farm traditional 100-acre farms, in many cases still using horses to do their field work. And because the farms are small, 100 acres, there's a variety of crops all contained in a very small area, so you get wonderful contrasting colors and patterns. And from the aerial vantage point of my ultralight, I have an opportunity to photograph scenes you would not see anywhere else probably in the world, and I consider it such a privilege to have this right in my backyard. I I do a fair amount of stuff on the ground as well. I've done a book on Mennonite children, which is actually unfolded over a 9-year period. And as people look at my material, both the books, the photographs, I hope they gain appreciation for who the Old Order of Mennonites are. The fact that, yes, on the surface they're very different. In fact, people who hang on to a set of values, especially focused around community, that I think are very enduring values, make a lot of sense, and I think people need to understand, the importance of that way of living. The Mennonites do not like your pictures taken. In fact, it's a religious conviction on their part. I understand it comes right out of the Old Testament and the Ten Commandments. You shall have no graven image before you, and they interpret images as pictures, so they don't want pictures of themselves because that might suggest honoring yourself instead of honoring God. So the photographs I have really are a gift from them. Exceptional cases, and mostly of children. Children have been baptized, so there's a bit of a leeway there, a little more, rational for, it's okay for them to be photographed rather than adults. I have photographed adults as well, but of course never with the intent to put it in a book. Many shots I've not taken. I could tell you as many that I haven't taken than those I have. Not even, I haven't even thought about asking, knowing full well that would not be in their favor to do so. So it's a fine line you walk there in terms of trying to respect and honor their, their adage that you're not to be photographed at the same time. On an individual basis, most of them are pretty cool with it. I had for a long time wanted to do a book that would celebrate, some of the values and communicate the essence of how does this community work. So I did it in a very unique way in that I did a book called This Land I Love, aerial photographs of their farms, Waterloo County, but the stories came from Mennonites themselves on a very personal basis, on a one-to-one. Nothing related to the photographs, but by using pictures of their land and their personal stories, I was able to make it work. My favorite picture, probably of all the ones I've taken over the years of the Old Order of Mennonites, is a young girl, 9 years old, Salida, looking out of a buggy window. And it's almost haunting in terms of the image of her face looking out of the stark blackness.
Well, I've come to visit all the way from England, and we don't have Mennonites in England or Amish people. So I've bought this book because it's absolutely beautiful photographs, really great subject matter, and it's full of beautiful quotes from the Mennonite children telling you all about their lives, so you can learn quite a lot more firsthand.
To photograph well, you've got to be passionate about it. I think there's a proclivity leaning towards the technical part of photography. You understand you got the right equipment and understand the technique, you can be a great photographer. That's the smallest part of it. The camera to me is just a tool. It's a means of exploring something in more depth, and it's also a passport for me. So I've been to Mozambique, Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Egypt. It's a wonderful opportunity, again, to use the camera as a way of seeing a world and a culture I wouldn't see otherwise. What makes a good picture? It communicates with the viewer. It says something that motivates them. Somehow it touches them emotionally. And that's a very elusive quality to define in terms of how do you capture that. But you know when you've got it.